her. Let's listen to what she says now as that vote is gavelled close.
Have all members-elect voted? Does any member-elect wish to change his vote or her vote?
No change. Closed.
On this vote, the yeas are 219. The nays are 213. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until noon tomorrow.
There you saw it. That camera will cut out soon. It's been a long day, about 8 hours, and we got another 5 votes today. Am I right? I'm literally losing track of how many times he's lost this vote, but I think we got another 5 if my math is correct. We're going to lose this shot in a second. We will be back with this tomorrow at noon on the 2-year anniversary of January 6th, which feels like a kind of portent. We'll see what happens. Let me go back to Kornacki and just make this point, Steve. As we go to an adjournment here until tomorrow, and we still have Ali Vitale, we've got a whole bunch of people for you tonight. It's just worth noting that group you have up there, they're different groups. So they're the 20 no's, but as far as I can tell, and I've been doing some reporting on this myself today, some of the stuff that's being negotiated, Patrick McHenry, who's a sort of emissary between this group and Kevin McCarthy, it's not clear that all 20 of them are on board with whatever deal. And in fact, what we're hearing is a two-pronged strategy, right? Like half of them might come over on a deal, but then you still got 10 holdouts, and 10 is more than 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that is the idea. The idea is that tomorrow's vote at noon, and that noon hour is going to be so key because you're going to see how many can McCarthy claim he's now peeled off, and can he get the number of folks refusing to vote for him down to a small enough? It's almost like, I think, being on a jury where there's that one holdout, and does the peer pressure ultimately build? If everybody else in the room is saying guilty or not guilty, does the peer pressure build enough? I think they're trying to get it to a point where, they just need 1 or 2 more and to build the pressure that way. But we'll see at noon tomorrow how much this actually translates into progress. Because remember, at this time last night, when they went into adjournment by the skin of their teeth, we were talking about, the Club for Growth had made a deal with the Congressional Leadership Fund. And there had been some movement, and there was everybody on this list was on this list last night at this time.
Yes.
So nobody moved over, nobody moved to present today. So, and again, you look at some of the comments that these folks have made. A guy like Bob Good from Virginia today was quoted saying, "You don't ever have to ask me the question again. I'm never on Kevin McCarthy." You've had Gates saying that. So if 4 say that and everybody else on this list votes for McCarthy, McCarthy is the speaker. If 5 take that position, then it doesn't matter how many else on this list vote for McCarthy. He won't have the votes the other variable here is as long as all 212 Democrats continue A, showing up, and B, voting for Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, and there is a little attrition here today. We lost Ken Buck, who is a Republican who flew back to Colorado for what he said was a pre-scheduled non-emergency medical procedure. So there's one less vote in that camp. I want you to stick around, Steve. That's very useful. Let me go back to you, Ali Vitale. This is, I guess, let's start here. To Steve's point, and to the fact that the 3 of us were having this conversation 24 hours ago, I think if you'd asked me to wager with real money last night at this time, I probably would have bet on that 20 coming down today. I thought, they had this deal and they were adjourning and they won the adjournment vote. So they got some people to yes on the procedural vote. So it seemed like there's a little bit of goodwill. There's a little bit of deal making. We're 5 votes later with no progress to show for it, but a promise that the talks are proceeding. I'm not quite sure how much I believe that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, you're more of an optimist than I am, because I don't think I would have put money on the fact that they would have been able to move 20 or some portion of them. But where they are now is that in these negotiations, they're aware of the fact that they're not going to win some of the people who are like the Gateses, who are like the Normans, who are like the Goods, who are saying absolutely never, ever, we're not going to get in that camp. What they're trying to do with these negotiations is what they're calling phase 1, just peel off maybe 5 to 10 people that actually care about procedural things, the idea of motion to vacate, the idea of who sits on the Rules Committee, the Appropriations Committee, these important places where spending decisions are being made. Those are the good faith operators in the no caucus right now, if you're Kevin McCarthy and trying to figure out the universes of where your votes are coming from. Once they peel those folks off, then they think about phase two, which what negotiators have said to me is then they go individually by stragglers. You guys touched on this idea that they're not dealing with a group of 20 that are all of the hive mind and they're all going to do what all of the others do. That's certainly not the case, and McCarthy's team knows that. They know that they're not trying to move some of these harder no's to yes. They're trying to move them to present so that they can change the magic number that they're trying to get to in the first place. I think the goal for Kevin McCarthy today, and the reason why I think there's some level of optimism around the people who are trying to help him here, is that Kevin McCarthy was always going to lose today. He just needed to not be a bigger loser than he was in the past 10 or 11 rounds of ballots that we've actually seen him go through. And, 11 ballots later, he's not a bigger loser than he was at the beginning of the day today. And that's the metric for success at this point for him.
I would describe him as a loser in stasis, in equipoise, one might describe him. A loser in perfect equipoise, perfectly balanced on the 20 to 21 votes he can't get. But I guess my point here is, well, there's two things here. One is, and I'm going to editorialize. You're a straight shooter, Ali, but I'm going to give it my take here. I mean, I think that I would say that some of these demands are procedural. Some of them are much more substantive. In fact, Patrick McHenry is talking about, we're having talks about spending, right? There's, I think, real questions about what promises are being made around the debt ceiling and about austerity and things like that. There's also these committee seats, which is not quite procedural, right? Because procedural is broadly appeal, like, if you change procedure, that applies to every member. If you say you get to be on appropes, that just applies to the person on appropes. Like, you've just made a deal to get those people there. That's a harder thing, I think, to square with the rest of your caucus. Although at this point, my question to you is, it doesn't seem like anyone else is rebelling against whatever he's giving away in these talks in the caucus.
That's right, because they are still actively checking with the more moderate members of this conference to make sure that in the process of going towards the Freedom Caucus, that they're not losing people on the other side of the spectrum. What one person described this to me as is by putting Freedom Caucus members on appropes and rules, it makes it so that they are spread throughout the committees. That's at least how they're trying to sell this within the conference at large. There are serious impacts to that, though. And you bring up the idea of spending. Some of this is the ability to wait, 72 hours between the time a bill is introduced till the time that it's actually voted on. Others of this, though, the Rules Committee is really the gatekeeper to the House floor. This is how debt ceiling fights and funding fights are won and lost. You can't do anything without putting it through rules. So the fact that you're putting more Freedom Caucus members there who do not want to continue funding to Ukraine, who do not want to do debt ceiling hikes, who don't want to do larger omnibus spending bills, that's a key piece here. It's a feature for these folks, not a bug. Yeah,
that's a really important point. We're going to return to that because I think that's actually one of the most significant developments today to the extent he gets over this. Ali Vitale, thank you.